Welcome to the State of the Nation. And I'm proud to say that today on the State of the Nation, we have undoubtedly our most important guest ever. Yes, without question, the most powerful man in South Africa is sitting next to me, and that is the current chairman of Eskom, Mteto Nyati. Mteto, welcome to the State of the Nation.
Hey, Mike, thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah, well, I've got a surprise.
I thought you were talking about the president.
No, you're far more important than the president. And I can prove that. All we need is one more return to load shedding, and suddenly people are going to value you a lot more than what they value the president. But welcome to this platform. You know, we cover South Africa in its entirety, and you know, especially politics and economics, and where the two of them meet, and where the two of them sometimes collide. And nowhere did they collide worse than during the very dark days of load shedding, which was a real sort of blow to the country and did some terrible things. And it looked, just when we thought that this could never ever be fixed, and we had all the drama with your predecessor, well, not your directory, with Andre de Ruyter and so on, that whole soap opera that played out. It looked like Eskom was gone for good. We were all rushing out to get solar installations. Along comes Mteto Nyati, and the problem has abated. Tell us what you did.
Look, thank you so much for, again, inviting me here, and I'm also representing, you know, a number of people behind me. I may be the chairman of Eskom, but the people that I represent as the CEO, the executive of Eskom, and also the employees of Eskom. This was not an easy decision just to be part of this project. You know, because I'm someone that I left my previous role in Altron, where I was the CEO, and I was very clear that I would like to go and do some work that involved me being invested in a business and a technology consulting firm, which I'm now currently part of. And to then be asked, when you are just beginning that, and be asked to come and do a project like this one, and be part of something that is so big and that's going to be demanding so much of one's time, it was not an easy decision. But I reflected on it and I said, look, we always complain. You know, we sit there and complain and point fingers. We hardly sometimes roll up our sleeves and say, hey, by the way, this problem, this challenge that is out there, it talks to the experience that I've acquired over these years. Maybe I'm one of the few people that can be part of solving this problem. And when I looked at it from that angle, I felt that, yeah, let me be part of the solution. And then I joined a team that was a very, very capable group of directors that were appointed by Pravin, the late Pravin Gordon. He put such a great group of people that engaged, of course, with management and came up with clear view of what the issues were. What was the problem? What is the problem in Eskom? And how can we go about solving it? And what resources do we need in order for us to enable this team to be successful? And what's the timeline around that? And we came up with that. That was around February last year, 2023. And the board approved the plan in March 2023. And we've been executing that 2-year plan turnaround now. We are 18 months into that. We're left with another 6 months to go.
Now, I know that usually when I've seen you being interviewed, people start from the other side, where you build up to this moment that you became. But I think it's more interesting to look at this, because I want to know, and I'm sure many people out there would love to know, what was the plan? Because yeah, to me, the Eskom situation was either very complex or very simple, depending on which way you looked at it. To my mind, it was relatively simple, and please forgive me, I'm no engineer, but I know that really Eskom is just a whole lot of series of big fires, aren't they?
Yes.
Right, inside plants that turns that energy into electricity, and you're a little bit it's difficult if you don't have the raw material, which is coal. But it turns out that a lot of South Africa is built on a mountain of coal. So it's a matter of getting the coal into the furnaces and then managing the rest. So to me, the problem seemed to be quite manufactured, that we weren't doing this. And, so what was your findings? What needed to be fixed? Yeah. Why couldn't we turn that coal into fire and turn that into electricity?
Yeah, look, there are a number of problems that we found in Eskom. But at the core of it, what we found was that first, the definition or the problem statement was not necessarily reflecting what the issues were. How the current leadership of Eskom were looking at things. Said, okay, we've got this aging fleet. We've got all of these power stations, in particular the coal power stations. They are old. That's how they define them. And maybe we should not even be bothering investing or putting any more money into these things. Allow them to get to a point where you retire them. So that was the thinking largely. The investment, yes, you invest here and there, but you run it up until at a point where you shut it down. But then allow the private sector to come in and come and produce as independent power producers and produce renewables for the country. That was the thinking, right? But the big issue is that you cannot solve the challenges that we're facing only with renewables. You need base load because renewables always, there's a dependency on the weather. Even if you have storage, the storage have got a limited amount of time. If you've got one day, just one day where the weather is not playing well, that you need to quickly find another source because you have depleted all of what you had from your batteries. So you cannot run an economy around that. You need a combination. Renewables need to be part of a combination of things, Yes. So we came to the conclusion that the coal fleet has to be part of trying to help us to gain energy security. And most of us being engineers, we also know that there's no such a thing as an old machine. If you look after your
just
machine,
like Cuban motor
exactly,
cars,
they go on and on and on as long as you maintain them, and you take care of them. And so from our side, we then came to the conclusion that we need to let's start making sure that we fix these machines and get them to the level at which they can operate reliable. The issue was now reliability, not the age.
Yes.
Right. So, okay, then if that is the case, let's analyze where should we be focusing on. That's again another engineering thing of saying you cannot be trying to be everywhere. You need to focus. To help you to focus, you come up with that 80-20 rule thing. And in our view, was that, okay, let's analyze the sources of these problems. And it became very clear to us that 4 of the power stations were actually doing excellently well. So our job there is to make sure that they must just continue to do what they are doing. Let's first analyze what is it that's making them to operate well, but maintain that. Then the rest, you analyze and we found that 75% of our problems came only from 6 power stations. Wow. Again, you start to say, okay, let me just focus my efforts. But we have also picked up from time to time when these guys are doing their maintenance, they go and do maintenance, and the unit comes back. It comes back in a worse position than when it was taken for maintenance. So we want to understand why is the case. And then the employees of Eskom will say, this is a problem. We have to go to people that do not have the expertise. We need to deal directly with the original equipment manufacturers. But policy is preventing us from doing that. Okay, That's our job. It's our job as the board, as management, to make sure that we go and change the policy to enable, this thing. So basically now you've got these 4 power stations that are doing well. You maintain them. Those are flagship power stations. You maintain those. You focus your efforts on the 6. Come up with a plan to make sure that those, you deal with them over the next 2 years, to deal with the 6, and you establish a relationship with people that have got the skills. So when you're taking the equipment out, when it brings it back, it must be more reliable. You establish that direct relationship with original equipment manufacturer. So as you were saying, it is as simple really as that. We've got a plan now, but the issue is you do not have the money. You may have all of the things, but you still need to go and order the spares. Don't go and buy genuine parts, And to do that, you have to place orders on time and all of these things. So you need the funds to be able to do that. That's where the debt relief from the country, from National Treasury, it came in handy. That was approved in February last year. That enabled us to start to be able to place the necessary orders. And our budget, our financial year starts in April. So in that financial year, which is April of 2023 to March of 2024, we budgeted to use diesel to the tune of 30 billion rand. 30 billion rand. We say, how can you be burning so much diesel?
I need a drink.
We budgeted to do that. Why? Because we were going to be doing so much maintenance. We'll be taking a lot of this equipment, which means we are reducing the capacity that is available out there. To try and minimize the impact to South Africa, we had to use the open cycle gas turbines. The design, those machines are designed to be running at about 6.5% to 7% of the time.
Yeah.
The load factor, we ran them close to about 25%, 25, way above their design, but it was necessary. It gave us the space to be able to do what was required, the maintenance.
Yeah. But there was clearly another couple of issues that you had to deal with.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, you don't have to be Sherlock Holmes to work out that it was suiting certain factions, parties, people to not have Eskom working the way that you've got it working now. And one could look at a couple of places. We know that since the Zuma era, there's been question marks around the coal agreements, right? The coal sale agreements. Anyone that's driven to anywhere near a power station sees 1 million coal trucks on the road when it used to be fed by conveyor belts. Then there was also the question of people sabotaging plants from within the plants. And, we did have a succession of politicians who were shocked. President, even when we had no power, he was the only person getting shocked. Clearly, you had some buy-in from above to suddenly tackle these things that had been allowed to fester for 10 years.
Yeah, so one of the things that we were very clear about as we started this board, we needed to make sure that we have the support of the people, and meaning the support of our shareholder. Because the decisions that we were always going to be making, some of them were not always going to be popular. And we were not there to try and be popular. We wanted to do the right things. And in order for you to do that, when people start to go and complain and escalate above you, they need to, when they reach there, they need to be told that you go back to those people.
Yes.
They've got the responsibility. Don't come to me. And we needed that cover, and we got that cover. Starting from the president, looking at the parliament, looking at Prime Minister, Brian Gordon,
yes,
as our shareholder. He was the representative of the shareholder. And then you also look at the Minister of Energy and Electricity. all of those people were aligned.
Yeah, but I don't want to interrupt you, but surely, you know, I'm not the smartest guy, and I would have worked that out, right? And surely your predecessors would have gone to those very same people with those very same problems and not received the cover that you received, the support that you received. What is it? Was it just that the outrage had reached such a level that government could no longer just turn a blind eye to what was going on? Or are you just so good at what you do that you managed to persuade them?
No, I cannot claim that one is good in this thing. I do think that there are a number of things that came at the same time. They came together at the same time. And the level of load shedding that was happening at the country, it reached levels that were everybody was fed up with it. It had to go away. You know, nobody should be protected just because of maybe political connections or that. No, we give the responsibility to a team of people who you give them 100% responsibility to go and fix it, and they must go and do whatever is necessary. You know, that's the kind of support that we got. You know, and I think it's largely because, for example, I came when the president called me. He had just come back from his trip in the US and the UK. He cut that trip short. Remember, he was here at that trip in the UK. He cut it short because South Africans were saying, you cannot be there when we're having stage 6 load shedding here. You need to be back here. So that's how important this thing was to the country, because South Africans were also very tired, and they've made it clear that they want to hold their political leaders accountable. So that's the climate, that's the context under which you need to be looking at us arriving within Eskom.
Now, to your knowledge, you know, if all of these parties were suddenly on board and doing what they needed to do, has anybody been held account? Has anybody actually paid the price for getting us into this position in the first place? And by that, I'm talking about, I know that the politicians will never be held to account, but certainly there were people that were sabotaging plants. Clearly there were people that were putting rocks in the coal. Has anything happened, and will anything, or do we just say, oh, well, you know, that's behind us now?
No, I do think that we need to be careful about the stories that we read, because, and assume that the problems that we're having were largely driven by some of those stories, that there was this sabotage, huge element of sabotage and this and that, when in reality, you know, we did not find much of that. You know, we have not found much of that at all, you know, within Eskom. And I do think that of course there was an issue around coal and the supply of coal and people switching that. And that to me is a leadership failure. By that I mean, I'm responsible for a power station, let's say Tutuka, or, you know, any power station. I'm responsible for that. And I'm getting every day, you know, all of this coal, some of it coming via the road. And I only realize after 3 months that that truck delivered stones. Why is that? Why didn't you pick it up immediately when it was happening? Why didn't you pick it up maybe the following day? And then you blacklist whoever did that to make sure that that company never, ever again is able to deliver, participate in. Why? That's why I'm saying it's a leadership problem. And that thing, you lack controls. It's either you have relaxed the controls, or you never put in the controls in the first place. So one of the interventions that was done by the leader that we brought in, who is Beki Nxumalo, was to make sure that in each and every power station, more especially the 6 power stations, we put in the people that are capable, people that that have got a lot of experience around this, and those are the guys that are able to drive the necessary discipline. And one of those disciplines is to make sure that am I getting what I ordered. You know, just doing that thing, you take it away, you remove that gap that was there. So leadership matters. Leadership matters at all levels. Make sure that each and every power station we've got the right leaders. People are going to insist that things need to be done in a particular way. You know, there are standard operating procedures for running a power station. You need to check the temperature, you need to check the pressure, you need to check the oil and all of these things at particular times. But if there is no discipline, everybody's doing their own things, nobody's following the standard operating procedures, you are going to end up with the mess that we were having. You know, just by having leaders that are respectable, leaders that understand what they're doing, leaders that are able to have difficult conversation with those that are not following the rules, it changed a lot.
Yeah.
And it made, in fact, those environments happy. Many of the employees became excited because now, you know, when they're going the extra mile, somebody at least can see it. You know?
And of course, those leaders need backing from above.
Yes.
There's nothing worse than being the only guy doing your job properly. And then you end up...
They knew that they can go all the way up to the board. And these are the same power station general managers that we as the board sat with them on a workshop and said, we want to hear from you. We want to hear from you what the hell is the problem. Why can't we get out of this thing? And most of the answers came from them. They have the answers. They get it, you know, because these are smart people. These are the guys that have been in this environment for a long time. So the insights that we got from them, they made all of the difference.
So one can draw the conclusion that the same situation exists in some of our other, you know, critical failures at the moment, Transnet, water, etc., that there are people there that could, if managed properly and with the necessary backing, could fix the problem. Leadership matters.
Is the key to all of this thing. Leadership is the key. You know, you find people not coming to work. There are no consequences. Find people being involved in unethical behaviors. No consequences. There are consequences in Eskom now. We pick it up. People now in Eskom, they're sharing more what they see, and they're able to report it because they know that action is going to be taken. So but if you lack leadership, they can try and do all of that. They are reporting they're putting their lives at risk for what? Because nobody is going to be holding anyone accountable. You know, so leadership across the board, it matters.
Well, there's no substitute for it, and really, I can't say enough good things to you about it. And of course, a huge amount of credit must also go towards in Dan Morikane's direction as
he
the CEO.
Is a great leader. He is a great leader who came in. He understands clearly. And by the way, I mean, we were part of the team that interviewed him. He stood out. I mean, he was like, you know, breakaway kind of. When you look at all of the candidates, this is the person that we felt that when you look at the challenges that are facing this organization and who should be leading it, it must be someone who can connect deeply with the people, have got a heart for the people, understand them, but can also have that what I call tough love. You know, you love them, but I have to tell you when you're doing things wrong. That's what you have in him. Somebody that is both able to be strategic, but also being very, very good in execution, and holding others accountable. You know, he has got all of that in him. Then so much energy in him. So we managed to find a leader that is creating a different culture in that organization. When you're starting to see smiles, when you're starting to see competition happening, a competition around excellence, it talks to the kind of leader that you have. So Dan is absolutely critical.
Yeah, the only thing that I can say about Dan is that he doesn't know that he's coming onto the State of the Nation yet. But we're going to get him on here. And while we're practicing tough love to everybody that's watching this, use Pace Car Rental. They sponsor us, keep us on the air. That's tough love. Eh? You better use them so that we can keep on growing the State of the Nation. Now we're going to get into the difficult part of the conversation, which is around the finances. Now, obviously, Eskom has been a massive drain on the country. The bailouts have just been astronomical. It's put the country back. We know the damage of load shedding, etc., etc. The disaster there is almost incalculable. But there's been a request for a massive increase in the electricity tariff, 36%, if I'm not mistaken, right? And people are saying, we love the job you're doing, but maybe we don't love it that much. Now, at the same time, or a similar time, you come out with results that show that you actually made a little bit of money, if I'm not mistaken.
No, you're mistaken. Yeah, okay. You're mistaken. But finish your question then.
But the question is, if the financial situation is improving,
yes,
do we need such a big increase?
Okay, let's look at how we got to this point. You remember I said that we were helped by the debt relief from National Treasury, which means all of us chipped in, really, basically, to help Eskom. 253 billion rand commitment from South Africa, from National Treasury. But we did not get all of that amount in one go. We're going to get it over a 3-year period. But that has allowed us to create the stability, to create the necessary, reliability of the infrastructure. But we need to set up this company to be sustainable. Without any, we should never go back to begging.
Bailouts, yeah.
No, we should never get to that point. And where are we now? Where are we? We are in a very good position now where we're seeing that because we are not doing load shedding, our sales, we're starting to have growth in sales. If you look at the current financial year, just the 7 months that we have been operational, we're growing year on year in terms of the sales because we're not doing load shedding. So that's one. The fact that we're also not doing load shedding and we're not using the open cycle gas turbines, it means that we are saving a significant amount from the amount that we're using on diesel. So that's another saving there. And the fact that we're also been given some money from National Treasury, it helps us to reduce our level of debt. So our interest charge is coming down. A combination of all of those three things, they are putting Eskom in a position where for the first time it's likely that we are going to be being profitable in this current financial year. So it's not now, like at the end of the financial year, which is in March next year. We may, that's what I'm saying, it looks like we're getting there. So all of these are good points, but you want an Eskom that is profitable. You want an Eskom that is able to stand on its own 2 feet. And in order for Eskom to do that, it needs to have a tariff that is reflective of the cost. So our big focus as the board was an energy security when we landed. But that focus has shifted now. Shifted to 2 things. We need affordability, that's what we're driving, and we also need to make sure that the energy that we're producing is green energy, it's clean energy. So those are, if you were to now, when you are having a discussion with Dan, when you're having him here, he will tell you what his priorities are. Take out the costs, let's move as quickly as possible into renewables, because that also helps us to drive down the cost. So when we're thinking about the future, we're seeing a future where tariffs are not going to be as steep as the one that we're asking now. But we need to show the reality where we are now, That's what we're asking, and we would be fooling everybody if we were to say come and say 5%.
Yeah.
But how does that help anything?
Yeah.
Because
we're just going to end up back we were.
No, so we have to be honest. We have to it does not mean that all of that can be sorted out through the consumer, but we need to put on the table. This is what is required. Then we can all sit down and say, how do we solve for this problem? Some of it may come from the consumer, some of it may come from somewhere, but at least let's make sure that Eskom is sustainable so that we do not have to go back to the fiscus in the future. Right. So that's what we've done.
And how are you dealing with, because we do have we've got a massive challenge in this country. And the massive challenge is, amongst many of the challenges, is that a lot of your sales are sales on paper only. You're charging municipalities for electricity, they're collecting the money and they're just not paying it over. The government has no political will to do anything about it. So in many ways, one could look at your financials whenever they emerge, at any stage and say, if this was a private company, you would say, look, you've got a sale here of R1 billion, but it's not really a sale because you're never going to see that money.
Look, when we're reporting our sales, we take into that into consideration. So the things where we feel that we've got a challenge, we do not factor it as part of the sales. It's like you already know that the probability of not being paid is high, and then you're reporting, no, you cannot do that. So from an accounting perspective, you need to use
account
some
for that,
account for that.
The way I see it, your solution is one of two things, right? Either to cut those areas off, or to take over the billing process yourself.
Yeah. So what is sad for me, well, as I'm watching all of this, because I'm relatively new in this space, just 2 years. When I'm watching, I'm looking at this thing, but the consumers, the people out there, they're actually paying. They are paying the municipalities. They are paying the metros, but the metros and the municipalities are just forgetting to pay us.
And you're getting no political cover for that.
And it's like, it's something that's bizarre. And it's like, how can this be? Because these are the entities that need to be role models in terms of society. These are big organizations, but they are doing something completely wrong,
But you spoke earlier that the turnaround came with a lot of support, political support. Why do you not get political support on this issue? Or is that a burning question?
I don't think we're not. If you look at now, the thing that is top of the agenda, if you go to the president, if you go to the Minister of Finance, the thing that is really the Minister of Energy and Energy and Electricity, if you go to a COCTA, the thing that is top of mind is the resolution of this problem. Because this thing is going to pull down the country if it is not resolved.
But obviously our lived reality is that those very people are sitting by and watching the destruction of many of the metros, especially in the Gauteng area, political games being played instead of delivery. So do you think they're doing anything or just talking about it?
So for me, there's one thing to be talking like at a theoretical level. So I will come to what practically, for example, has happened. We had a situation with Mfuleni, where we had to make a tough decision as a company to say, we need to have a different conversation around this matter. You owe us. We need that money back. And we had to attach 4 of their bank accounts. And really the key was not so much the attaching of those, it was to sit down and have a conversation. We need to do this thing differently. We need to be your agent. We need to collect ourselves from the consumers. Take what is ours and give you what is yours. That is the arrangement now we have with Mfuleni. And that is the arrangement that I think is possibly going to be used across
the board.
Because when we're solving that problem, all of these ministers were part of those calls. They are the ones who enabled and helped us to get to that kind of an agreement. And we said, now that we've got this set up, we need to look at the next 14 municipalities. Let's have that kind of an arrangement, So that is a big move compared to where everybody was talking, but nobody's really doing anything.
Yes.
We have moved a long way, and that's a good thing. We also need to find a different mechanism as you allocate money from the center to the municipalities. There needs to be a thought of how much are they owing Eskom. So before you even give all of that to the municipality, give some
Eskom.
of it to Eskom. So that's another avenue that we're working on. And National Treasury is also very open around that thought.
Yeah, because nothing sobers people up like debt, isn't it? And
Yes.
the debt collector. Just before we move on to more sort of other issues, the effect of solar and alternative energy on a more domestic level.
Yes.
It's not going to get any less. The technologies are going to improve. Houses, businesses, etc. They're relieved to be on the grid. You obviously have to balance your price, but South Africa is bathed in sunshine, and a lot of it is at high altitude, which helps, etc. And it's a perfect candidate at a domestic level where one can afford it to have a dedicated sort of renewable solution. Is this a big threat to Eskom?
We see it as a threat, but at the same time, we are living in a world now where as Eskom, we are not married to a monopoly. What we know is that we are going to be living in a world where there's competition, when we are just going to be one of the many companies that doing generation. We've got comfort in the sense that we actually have got so much experience in this game. You can bring all of the competition there. If we look at the IP that we have, if we look at our experience and having people that are much more open to competition, we can do great things. We're actually going to be winning in this new space. So for us, this is actually, yes, in the past, I think the teams were a bit worried about competition. They are embracing competition now. We've just released one of our divisions, the National Transmission Company, and we're giving them the independence to enable this competition that I'm talking about. So solar is always going to be there.
And it's going to improve.
But there's also the reality of South Africa. Many people, they come to me, of course I cannot generalize based on the people that have come to, but what I'm hearing is that had we known that things would have changed so much around the energy situation in our country, I would have not invested my 20,000 or 25,000 on setting up that because I've got other priorities. These are people that are medium income people and also rich people. They are saying that. So I'm just saying that there's so much, we make these assumptions, but people have got so much demand in terms of their lives. And if they can just have an Eskom that is reliable, they can postpone this investment that you're talking because they can. And many companies, I go to go and present to many boards now because they want to understand this, because many of them have set aside capital expenditures, huge amounts, to look for alternative energy production. And they are asking themselves, should they be going that route? I cannot say no, but all I can talk to them about is what I know from within Eskom. Eskom reliability will continue to improve and improve going forward.
Now, Mteto, you're obviously, I was going to say making a name for yourself, but that would be absolutely rude because, this reads like the best CV ever, Microsoft, MTN, Altron. You were a rice salesman, weren't you? Tastic.
Yes.
You've been at some of the bigger organizations. You've got your own investments company. You're involved with BSG, the chairman there, big organizations. And now, I suppose, in one of the most crucial roles, you've really proven yourself. People start asking questions, about people who are as successful as you are. Are you going to take over the world, or at least take over South Africa?
No. My space, I know my lane.
Yeah.
I know what I'm good at. I know the things that I'm not good at. And the space that we were given as this new board, because most of them, they are like me. These are people who just want to do things the right way. They call things out, and there is also not about them. It's really about the country. But most of us would like to go back and do the things that we were really enjoying doing. And I would really like to go back to do that.
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of people watching that could see the state of the nation political party, at the next elections. But anyway, that's just me dreaming. But let's talk about South Africa as we sort of head towards the end now. Obviously, we had, if one could go back, a year ago seems like a nightmare compared to now. It's easy to forget just how life was with, once again, load shedding contributing to the problem, but not the only problem. It's just, that just focused some of our anger. Then we had elections and people voted. They just put their anger on display. Nobody got a majority. We've got a government of national unity, which is out there. What's your view on where South Africa sits at the moment politically? And then, looking forward, are you hopeful?
Yeah. I think the outcome that we got after the elections, it probably shocked most of the political parties. But that is a good reflection of where South Africans are at. The South Africans want the different parties to work together. My own observations, and think many parties, they always like to put themselves in extremes and trying to think that by being radical, we are going to be attracting a number of people. But we have seen that in this country, South Africans are very much in the middle.
They center right at worst.
Absolutely, that's where they are. And that's where they've put this setup that they've given. It's a huge signal to say this is who we are. We do not want all of this nonsense that we keep hearing on the left and the right. We are interested in growing our economy. We're interested in making sure that our children have got good schools that they can go to. We want to make sure that our health system is able to support us. That's what they're interested in, education for their children. And we believe that a combination, all of you coming together, is a better combination than just one view. And I look at this thing, I look at going back to my own experience as a business leader. And one of the things that I picked up much earlier in life is that diversity, there is strength in diversity. Diversity, not just race, diversity of perspective, views, diversity in terms of age, diversity in terms of, gender, all sorts of diversity. If you bring that to the problems that we are facing today and bring a team of people that focus on the same problem, one is diverse and one is just from one group, the chances is that this team that is more diverse is likely going to be coming up with solutions that are more relevant, that are more impactful. And I've seen it many, many times. So I've always embraced diversity. And this is what I see happening here. That's the diversity. We've got huge problems, but we need to look at these problems from different lenses and bring those perspectives together to come up with solutions that can take us out of this thing. And the GNU is that.
Do you think that we still need legislation like BEE, for example, affirmative action? Do you think that is still a problem in South Africa?
Yeah, I do think that that's not something that South Africans are ready to let go of. And what you need, though, I mean, having been a leader in business for a long time, what we need is to make sure most business people, they want to make sure that there's clarity in that. It should not be, this is what BE is today, tomorrow it has changed, you've changed the rules. You want clarity. You want to make sure that the policy is clear, you know, and keep it stable over time, you know. So I do think that it's something that will be with us for a long time.
So it's not a matter of whether we like it or not. It's
No.
staying for a while.
No, I think South Africans continue to expect it, and there's, yeah, I mean, done properly, there's absolutely nothing wrong with BEE. Where you have seen it going in the wrong direction, where you start to give companies that are not capable, you give them responsibility, you end up not getting the outcomes that you were getting, you know?
Yeah.
You were hoping for, sorry.
Now, your experience in a big organization like Eskom, you've mentioned it, you've seen great talent. Do you have a big concern that South Africa does not have the human capital that we need to grow this economy?
No. My only issue when I look at our country, and look at the levels of unemployment, and that concern me. I look at 60% plus of the people that are unemployed as the youth. That is a challenge. And then you look at, we need to grow all of our companies. And I go to, you know, the company BSG, we're doing a lot of consulting work in the financial services. We find that there's a huge shortage of digital skills. These are skills that are so key to helping these companies to be globally competitive. And we're missing, we lack those skills. And that's this piece that we need to have a very, very strong focus. Let's not try and generate key focus, for example, on digital skills. Let's make sure that we bring in these young unemployed graduates out there, prepare them from this world, because all that you really need is you know, most of if you go to university, they teach you how to think. Right? So these people have been taught, so you can convert someone who's got a degree in whatever, give them the skills that are required around digital, and those people can be productive. You know, we've done this thing many times when I was at Microsoft, brought in young people, given them the right skills. So we need to just continue to be creative and innovative around addressing our unemployment problem and also the shortage of digital skills. We should not, it should be criminal to be sending work to overseas when we've got so many young people that are sitting here being unemployed. Let's find ways of enabling those people to participate in our economy. So, for example, one of the organizations that I work for is called Collective X. And we are 100% focused on digital, driving digital skills for South Africa to help South Africa to be globally competitive.
And you're succeeding.
Yes, we are succeeding.
So South Africa in 5 years' time looks a lot better than what it looks right now.
It will, you know. And what we like when you look at Collective X is how the corporates have signed up to this, because what you need is a partnership. Again, you're just sitting and training these people in the classroom, it means nothing. You need to have that partnership where they have got what we call work integrated learning. You know, there's learning that's involved in work, but you need companies to be part of that. And when you see these companies are signing up, bringing them those kids, 50, 100, 150 of them, and that is good. It can only be a good thing for our country.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you were considering a trip to Ponte Towers so that you could go to the top of the building and jump off because you thought South Africa was a hopeless place, I'm sure that this discussion today with Mteto and Nyati has helped you to feel a little bit more positive about South Africa and where we are heading. It takes one person with vision and action to make a difference, and that person, Mteto and Nyati, has made an enormous difference to South Africa. Thank you so much for everything you've done. I think I speak for everybody that's watched this and many South Africans that aren't. But thank you so much, and more power to you and everything you're doing in your team at Eskom. Well done, and everything you do. To everybody that's joined us today, thank you so much. Support Pace Car Rental. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and we look forward to seeing you again on the State of the Nation. Thank you so much.